们，大家好，欢迎您收看本期的留美三人行之美丽人民有话说，我是主持人张丹妮。在当今的中国社会，有许多人被受昂贵的房价困扰。那么今天的节目，让我们走进美国老百姓的生活，了解一下美国的百姓是否买得起房，美国的年轻人会在什么时候选择买房，美国的父母会不会帮助他们的孩子一起承担买房的压力呢？
Do you think most American people can afford properties in the U.S.?
I think most cannot because financially it's very difficult here and a lot of people have rents and other bills and other responsibilities, and I think that makes it really difficult to be able to afford properties.
Especially now in the city, there's a lot of gentrification going on, where people from the outer suburbs with money are coming in and rehabbing a lot of the housing in the cities, making it too expensive for the people who used to live in those neighborhoods, who are now forced to go further and further away from the center city, and it's creating more trouble for housing in the cities.
I think there's a lot of programs or a lot of mortgage companies that allow it, or banks that allow to finance, but they put so many like interest and things that you have to pay into the mortgage. They make it easy for you to get a house, but then keeping it might be a little bit harder because it's a lot of money that you have to pay. So no.
So no.
No. Not at least. I mean, it depends because I think you can afford a house. It just depends on if you're okay with buying a house that's a little bit of, a little bit less money in an area that's not so good. I'm more about safety, so I don't think I can afford a house where I would feel safe at this point. So no.
So what percentage of your monthly income are you willing to contribute to a mortgage?
Typical wisdom says that you should be willing to contribute about 30% of your monthly. For me, that number is probably a little bit lower. I want to be able to build wealth to the point where I can contribute 20% of my income to a house because I value experiences. I want to be able to go take trips and things and not be quote-unquote house poor. So that's what I think about it. It's about 20%.
I'd say probably 40%. Just because if I'm gonna have a mortgage, I'm gonna want to get it going quick. So I can live bare bones for a while before I pay it back.
Probably the same amount that I'd want to put rent, which is like a week or two
So pretty much
income.
a third or two halves.
Yeah, probably a third.
If you're talking about young people that are just starting out, that are trying to buy houses or make these big decisions, actually there's a lot more pressure on them due to student loans in the US than there has been before. So that's like the presence of student loans actually delays the home buying decision. Plus there are lots of other financial pressures like the job market and other things that are happening that, I think actually people will still want to buy houses, but they just don't have the ability to do that.
So you don't think, I'm talking about most people, like not just the young people, do you think most people in the US can afford houses, like eventually, like not
I think that's the epitome of the American dream, is to have a property, and it's actually better for them. It's better for any person to own a house rather than to rent, because it's the only asset that's consumable. You can use it, and it's appreciable at the same time. It actually gains value over time. So it's actually better for people that own their houses. I think a lot of people aspire to that, but many people are in a situation where it's not possible.
Do you think it's necessary to buy a house before getting married, or if you wanted to start a family?
No, it's probably not a bad idea, but I don't think it's necessary.
You know what I think? Between having a house or renting, I think you can get definitely different feels in that. I think there's benefits to both. But I also think having a house and buying a house before you're married, if you're not secure in your money or financially, it can cause a lot of problems before marriage occurs. So I think that it just depends financially how comfortable you are before you buy a house.
not necessary.
I don't think so. No, not at all. Especially, you can rent, wherever you can live with your parents, whatever I think for that couple, what's best for them during that time period. So,
Do you think your parents would think the same?
yes. What do you think the same? I think they would like me to do the traditional route of getting married, owning a home, and being financially stable. But I think with this day and age, it's so different than the traditional route where you can rent here, and just to be able not to be locked down to one space at all. I feel like a lot of people are traveling and going here and there and having more experiences. So even if it may not be, they may think it's the best way to go, but I think for our age and for our generation, it's not the typical route of getting a mortgage right away and having a house to depend, to deal with. So.
And when do you think would be the best time to buy a house?
For me, I think that when I'm thinking about starting a family, when I'm thinking about expanding, maybe about the time I get married, but I haven't really thought about that in too much depth yet.
Do you think most American parents are willing to help their children with financing a house?
I would be inclined to say yes. In my situation, it wouldn't be that way, just because my parents, after a certain age, or like you're on your own, you have to pay for your own things. But I would think that yes, most of American parents would, if they came down to it. Yeah.
I think most American parents are willing to help kids with education, that sort of thing. I think when it comes to housing, I think people are mostly on their own.
I think that a lot of factors contribute to that. It could be cultural factors, and for instance, in my culture, my parents would help me financially, but I don't know how it is for other people, so I can't speak for their behalf, but I would assume that if your child is suffering, you would want to help them.
So if you have a daughter and she's going to marry someone, so do you think it's necessary for the guy to own a house?
Well, I have two sons, neither of whom could afford to buy a house. I don't think it'd be different if it was a daughter.
Okay.